I'm tired of a friend who only complains about her husband. I have a friend I've known nearly my whole life. We first met back in our freshman year of high school. From that day on, we became inseparable, sharing our lives closely for decades. I still remember us sitting at the very back of the classroom, splitting our packed lunches and whispering about what kind of adults we might become one day. After graduation, we each went our separate ways, but our bond remained. Back then, our time together was filled with laughter. I can still see us guzzling coffee at the library the night before finals, desperately trying to stay awake. I can picture us riding the last subway home after a club meeting, talking and giggling all the way. Even in college, we stayed in touch, sharing updates about our love lives and career dreams. When I cried over heartbreak, she held my hand and listened until I calmed down. When she wrestled with her career path, I stayed up through the night, reassuring her that she would figure it out. Those moments built a foundation so solid that I was convinced this is my forever friend. And in time, of course, we showed up for each other's milestones. Her wedding, mine, the birth of our children. We never missed the big days. But now, things feel different. At some point, meeting up with her stopped being light and joyful. The reason is simple. Our conversations always circle back to her husband. Now, don't get me wrong. It's normal for friends to talk about their marriages. Everyone has frustrations, and sometimes you need to vent. But the issue is that with her, the conversation is only about her husband. At first, I listened sympathetically. The baby was up all night and I'm exhausted. My in-laws nagged me again for no reason. I'd encourage her. You're doing great. I know it's hard, but you're holding it together. That felt like the right thing to do as a friend. But gradually, her stories zeroed in more and more on her husband. He came home drunk again last night. Whenever I say something, he argues back, and somehow I end up the bad guy. He doesn't play with the kids on weekends. He just lies on the couch watching TV. It didn't matter where we were, in a cafe, at a restaurant, or even at the playground with her kids. The conclusion was always the same. Her husband. Meetings that began with smiles ended too often with sighs and tears. At first, I gave her sincere advice. Try to tell him calmly how you feel. Communication is the most important thing. Maybe consider couples counseling. For the kids' sake, you need to set some ground rules. She always nodded in agreement. You're right, this time I'll really try. But the next time we met, it was the same. We fought again last night. I ended up crying. I'd ask, did you try what we talked about? Her answer, no, it just didn't feel like the right moment. I let it go again. And so, the advice I poured my heart into evaporated into thin air. She would cry, tell the same story again, and the cycle repeated. Last summer, past 11 at night, my phone rang. Her voice was shaking. It sounded like something terrible had happened. This is it. I'm done. I'm filing for divorce. I can't live like this anymore. I threw on clothes and drove straight to meet her at a cafe near her house. We sat there until 2 in the morning. She poured out everything, how hopeless she felt, how much pain she was in. I walked her through the practical steps, talking to a lawyer, custody of the kids, financial planning. She sat with a determined expression and said, "This time, I mean it. I'm going to live my own life." That night, I felt torn. My heart ached for her, but I also felt relief. Maybe now she'll finally make a change. Maybe she won't keep sacrificing herself. But only a few days later, she called again, sounding completely different. We decided to work things out. He apologized, and for the kids' sake, I want to give it one more chance. I was speechless. All the tears I shed with her that night, all the careful advice I gave, what was it worth? And it didn't stop there. The same pattern repeated endlessly. Example 1. At lunch one weekend, she said, "Yesterday he told me I was wasting money by going out with friends." I asked, "So what did you say?" She sighed, "Nothing. I didn't want to fight, but it stung so much." Example 2. On a family trip, he suggested we go away together, but then he got drunk, yelled in front of the kids, and ruined everything. I was so embarrassed. I told her, "You need to set boundaries. You can't keep letting this slide." She shook her head. "The kids don't want their dad gone. I'd be the bad guy." Example 3. The night he didn't come home, I thought something terrible had happened. I cried all night. But when he finally came in, he just said I was being dramatic. Don't I sound pathetic? I said, "This isn't just conflict. This is a trust issue." She nodded, but nothing changed. Example 4. Arguing over the kids' extracurriculars. I insisted they need tutoring. He snapped, saying I was wasting money. We fought, and of course, I ended up crying again. Example 5. Her parents' birthday party. I begged him to come, but he refused. I had to go alone with the kids. I was so ashamed. Each story cut deeper than the last. By now, our meetups had become predictable. No matter the setting, after a few pleasantries, the conversation funneled back to her husband. It was as if she couldn't start talking until she had opened the door with his name. This morning before work, he scolded me for no reason. He never lifts a finger around the house, but calls me lazy if I take a break. I kept offering comfort, knowing it wouldn't change anything. My patience wore thinner each time. The cycle was always the same. She would vent, declare, "I'm really leaving this time." I'd cry with her, help her plan, and then she'd go back to him. Over time, the list of grievances only grew. Example 6. Money. He spends hundreds on fishing gear, but when I buy one outfit, he calls it wasteful. Isn't that unfair? I said, "That's a double standard. You need to call it out." But she admitted she stayed silent. Example 7. The kids' education. I want the kids in English classes, but he refuses. I'm terrified they'll fall behind. I told her, "That's a decision you both must agree on. It's too important." But again, she said she just cried. Example 8. Drinking and friends. It's always the same. Late nights out, never answering his phone. And when I call, he says I'm clingy. But if I see my friends, he complains, "Who's watching the kids?" The more she spoke, the more I found myself angry too. But deep down, I knew she wasn't going to change anything. At this point, I started dreading her calls. Each meeting left me heavy and drained. One evening, my child asked, "Mom, why are you upset today?" That was the moment I realized my friend's unhappiness was spilling into my family. Even my husband noticed. Every time you come home from seeing her, you look weighed down, like it's happening to you. And he was right. Her pain had become my burden too. This friend isn't just anyone. She's someone who stood by me in my hardest years, someone I believed would be in my life forever. That's why I can't just cut her off. But being her sounding board for the same story over and over is draining me. I've even started avoiding her calls, putting my phone on silent, checking messages late. But when I finally answer, it's as if she never stopped talking since the last time. We fought again. This one was really bad. And I sigh, already knowing where the conversation will lead. Lately, I've been asking myself hard questions. Can I keep this friendship going? Or do I finally need to say enough is enough? But the words stick in my throat. It feels too cruel, too much like abandonment. So here I stand, caught between love for a lifelong friend and the exhaustion of listening to the same pain on repeat. This isn't simply a story about a whiny friend. It's a textbook case of emotional venting without resolution, something psychologists sometimes call complaint dependency. Why advice doesn't work? Fear of change. Divorce, counseling, even a serious talk require courage. It's easier to cling to familiar pain. Need for dependency. Having someone listen becomes its own comfort, so solving the problem would remove that outlet. Identity attachment. Over years, she may have internalized the role of the suffering wife. Letting go of that role feels threatening. The impact on the listener. What you're experiencing is known as compassion fatigue. At first, you genuinely care, but repeated, unresolved venting drains your emotional resources. Eventually, listening itself feels exhausting, even resentful. Over time, it can harm your mental health and even your family life. This kind of burnout isn't unusual for counselors or caregivers, but in a friendship, it signals something's deeply out of balance. What can you do? Set boundaries. Say honestly, I want to be here for you, but I can't keep hearing the same story without change. Redirect conversations. Introduce other topics, hobbies, kids, the future. If she circles back to her husband, gently steer away. Encourage professional help. Tell her, I'm worried for you. A counselor or therapist could give you better support than I can. Care for yourself. Limit meetups, reclaim time with your family, invest in your own well-being. Don't feel guilty. Protecting yourself is part of being a good friend. Your exhaustion doesn't mean you're a bad friend. It means you've been too good of one for too long. What's needed now isn't more late-night talks or endless patience. It's balance. You can keep your friendship, but you must also protect your own life from being consumed. Because true friendship means walking together, not carrying someone forever while they stand still.